everyone, welcome back to So Arizona. It has been about a month since I've done a garden tour, so let's go check out what the garden looks like right now in late April. I've been working so hard over the last couple of weeks trying to get all of the paths mulched and a lot of the weeds pulled, the tomato baskets in place, and so many things planted. And I feel like after this next final push over the weekend, where I put in the rest of my flowers and I think one more flat of peppers, I should be ready to relax and enjoy the garden for the summer. My son came to help me with part of it, and then I've been doing some of it myself, but I feel like it's looking a lot better. You may notice back here where the figs are that there are some little rough spots, and that's because I chopped up with my clippers some bean vines that I had dried, and I just tossed them over there because, like Mama says, waste not, want not. Little plum is doing well. Oh look, I see a couple of little plums on here. Let's see if I can see that little dude. There are a few of them on here. It's still a very young tree. It's my little pear tree. I love how pears look when they first come out. They get that like rusty green look. So pretty. And then this space in between, I'm working on experimenting with a fruit guild. I have a long way to go with this right now. This is just starting, but my first thing in the back here is a kiwi vine. And I've got the little gopher basket around it. But this kiwi vine, I actually planted a second one over here, and it died. So I have a replacement coming to me soon in the mail. My plan is that those kiwi vines can crawl on this wall all the way along behind the pear and the plum tree and just fill that space. You're supposed to space them 6 to 8 feet. I think I did 6. And so these other little planting holes right here, I'm gonna be filling with something else, but I'm not sure yet. So this is part of the fun, is planning it. So with a fruit guild, you layer in tall, medium, and low-lying plants. And hopefully they will all be edible fruits that I can just sort of build. One will shelter the other. So I think it's gonna be a fun experiment. I finally got this patio cleaned off a bit, swept, and all of that. And most of those beds are planted now. So I've shared this a lot, but I've got my strawberry / dwarf tomatoes in this little tub. And look how big this little zucchini is getting, this Ostia zucchini. So he's coming right along. My bush tomato is doing really well. It's got some blooms, and I noticed that it's got a little tomato on it. Can you see that little guy back there? It's the very first one, but I put some moss rose around the bottom just to conserve moisture and to make it look beautiful. And then these Hestia dwarf runner beans are really starting to go for it. They've gotten very big in the past week or so. I've got my little flower / spearmint / volunteer watermelon going here. I was gonna take it out, and then I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna see what happens. Planning on filling up the fountain later today, I think, and I have to harvest all of that lettuce because it's covered in seed. Every morning I've been coming out and just picking up these seeds. They're just everywhere that these nasturtiums are dropping for me. They just fall to the ground right underneath them. They're starting to look a little ragged, but they still smell so sweet. And that right there is one of my homework jobs for the weekend. All of those need to go in the ground or in these stock tanks. The tomatoes are getting so big in here, and the eggplants are just gorgeous. Let me get up close so that you can see these blooms. Look how beautiful those are, and look how many. My goodness, this is the patio baby eggplant. Does really well in pots, and I just think it's lovely. It's time for this kale to go in the back here so that all of my tomatillos can spread out and get crazy like they like to do. This was the spinach bed right here. I've got a little sunflower I see and some of those green beans coming up. So all in all, it's looking quite lovely. You can probably see our construction material stacked back there because this shed is still in the works. My husband has the skylight in, he's got the door in, He's also got the window in. So now what we need to do is prime and paint it. And then we ended up taking all of the shelves out to replace them. They were the old style shelves that were just really inefficient and partly falling down. So I've got all of my stuff just organized right here so that I can find it. So I have it in kind of a single layer so I can find everything that I need while I'm gardening. But as soon as we get the shelves, then I can put it back in and hopefully this eyesore will be gone. But now that the shed is almost wrapped up, we have one more project with it, and that is to add a rainwater harvesting barrel. So the rainwater drains off right here, and TJ is going to be adding a gutter here. And then right at the corner right there, right in this area, we'll put in a rainwater catchment barrel. That way we can use that water to irrigate all of our stock tanks over here. And eventually we're also going to put one in right here and possibly one in this other corner as well, so that we can feed some tanks that will help irrigate this. So those are future projects. We will be adding this probably in the next couple of months, and then those over there, those will be later on, like months down the road. And there is another project that I'm planning for the fall that I want to show you about, and it's going to be a pollinator garden. So if we go to the other side and we look at it from this direction, it's a little bit easier to see. There's this open spot and the ground is pretty compacted here. What I want to do is add a pollinator garden with little winding pathways and little flowering perennials kind of here and there. So I want it to be a lot more natural and a lot less geometric than my garden is, because I have, you know, pretty even straight paths and triangles and squares and rectangles. But I would like this to be a little more creative and fanciful, and that way I can utilize this space right here, but do it in a way that is a lot more fun and that will attract a lot more pollinators. And I'd like to put a little seating area in there somewhere. And then obviously this needs to be addressed. These peas are going crazy, and I failed to remove this volunteer sunflower, so now it's going crazy. But look at all those peas. I have some little dwarf tomatoes down in here, so I'm gonna have to figure out a way to trellis back the peas so they can get the sunlight they need. I just noticed that these potatoes have little blooms on them, little buds. They haven't opened up yet, but they will. So this is a really good sign that the potato plant is happy and forming tubers. So after they bloom, then the blooms will die back. The vines will start to yellow and kind of dry up, and then I'll know it's time to dig up my potatoes. I want to take you around to the front courtyard, which I don't often go to. I think I did a little portion of a video there a couple of weeks ago, but I don't go up there very often, and honestly it's because it's a mess. And today I'm going to be spending some time mowing and cleaning out the fountain so I can get the fountain going again. But I did at least sweep it and plant some pots with flowers in them just to make it a more pleasant space. And I feel like I spend so much time working on my garden, but I don't always get the time to just sit in it. Actually, I don't get much time to sit in it at all. So my goal for the summer is to try to keep up on some of the maintenance and the cleanup of my garden so that I can actually enjoy the space to relax and hang out in. So let me show you it, because I think the flowers are just looking so beautiful this morning. Such a pretty morning outside today. Desert marigolds are starting to pop up everywhere. I just love the color, the yellow with the frosty green. All right, so let's go, shall we? So right inside the gate, I have added some little flowers. I got these from Green Things, just a little mix of things in here to add a little bit of color. And then I put some pineapple sage around the base of my little variegated lemon tree here. But that is the fountain that I will be cleaning today for sure. And above that, my little tombstone rose is just about done. It peaked in its bloom probably a couple weeks ago, and it smelled heavenly. But yeah, this courtyard definitely needs some work. Got a little hummingbird nesting in here. This old rose, I always wonder how old it actually is. The lady that was the original owner and builder of the house was in her 90s when she passed, but I'm sure she planted this, and it is looking so lovely. It definitely needs to be pruned, but it's the old style climbing rose, which I like. And those primrose all the way along are really looking pretty. I got a new Tacoma stands to put in here too. This is the Tacoma Stands Sparklet. I love orange. Look at the orange color. I've got some more mixed pots, zinnias and snapdragons and things. Some of them have seen better days, but hopefully I can take care of them better this summer. And I just threw some stuff in here. This old oak tree just puts out so many leaves. We have a huge jasmine bush up here next to our front door, and every year hummingbirds nest in it, and there is a mama hummingbird nesting in it right now. So I'm gonna see if I can get close enough to show you without scaring her away. The other day she was out probably eating, and so I got to peek in the nest, and there were 2 little eggs in there, and they were so tiny. They were about the size of jelly bellies. Can you see her right there? Sitting so proudly. If I can find the footage, I'll show you the video of the hummingbird from last season. I got her on camera just nest building and taking care of her babies, and it was so cute. Our olive trees are blooming right now. We got quite a few olives on them last year, which I admit I did nothing with. I just left them because you have to wait for them to ripen and brine them and all of that. And I've just been so busy with building this garden that I have not had time for that, but maybe this year. Well, it looks like it's really putting on a show. Maybe we'll get a lot of them. This is our little side area here. And I just let it go naturally in grass because I think it's just really pretty that way. I have a little raptor that loves to sit right here in this branch and observe. And I think it might be a harrier, but I'm not up on my raptor species. So if y'all know, I'll put a photo up here and you can help me identify it. But you may think this looks a little bit messy, but I love the way the seed heads look on the grasses as the fall approaches, and the birds love them too, and a lot of insects nest in them. But let me show you what it would look like if we sprayed and mowed. So this is what it would look like if we sprayed and mowed it, and I do not like that, and I don't think the creatures do either. This is just a very dead and barren thing, and this is actually what our garden looked like too for a long time until I started planting and working on the soil. So I'm really grateful that it looks the way it does today. I'm gonna start with this composting corner because I'm really proud of the work I've done back here. I had mounds and mounds of garden debris that I had saved over the fall and winter, and I finally got it all shredded, and I have been enjoying using that as mulch throughout my garden. But I want to show you how organized it looks right now. All of the debris that was all over here is all gone thanks to the help of my trusty little Shreddy Kruger. That thing is such a lifesaver. And you can see my vermicomposting bins right here where I have my composting worms. And I've got, of course, all of my equipment still here, but it is all cleared out and I can actually walk again, which is so nice. And here is all of that lovely shredded mulch that I will show you that I'm using on my beds, and it was totally free and it doesn't have any chemicals in it, so it feels really safe. I've got a couple of my composting bins are full and I've topped that off. I layer in some of the shredded mulch in between the layers of kitchen waste that I bring out just to make sure that it doesn't get too gunky, and it's a great way to add browns. And this one is just about ready. I'm going to top that with one final layer of wood chips and and let it sit for a bit before I turn it. And then that one is one that's in progress. And I've got one of my little cage tops on here to protect it from rodents. This I'm actually pretty excited about. I have a bunch of buckets full of these bean pods that I worked on shelling out throughout the winter time, and I have saved all of those. I'm going to be using all of this as browns to put into the compost bin as well. So I really try hard to not have to bring in any outside things as much as possible and not to waste and use what I have. That way all of the nutrients that are grown on the soil and from the soil gets put back into the soil. I have all of my garden supports and cages and things all here ready to go and organized and grouped by like kind. And my area that had all of that debris is completely clear so that my figs have room to grow and breathe this summer. I've been using a lot of the chipped up garden debris as mulch on top of my beds, and that serves a couple of purposes. It will conserve soil moisture because the sun won't be beating down on my soil and evaporating all the moisture in it. It will also help to maintain a consistent soil temperature, which will be much easier on the roots, and hopefully it'll be a little bit cooler than the ambient temperature. This bed is my tomato bed, and I've got some little garden stakes in here that I'm going to try to support them with this year because I have so many tomatoes I ran out of tomato baskets. But you can see that I have covered the soil with mulch, and so far the tomatoes are really liking it. This is the first bed that I've done with this, so this mulch has been on there for about 3 weeks, and look at that, they are just looking so healthy. I'm so excited for tomato season. And I've got it on these eggplants too. And yes, I still do have these wire cloches on there to protect them from the birds. They have recovered really nicely. You can still see down below some of the shredded parts that the birds had their way with earlier in the season, but since then they've completely rebounded and they're looking really beautiful. And I've got them mulched. I have some cucumber seeds sown in here too to grow around the base, and I'm just going to cover those up till they get a little bit bigger, just in case the birds need a salad. This one has peppers in it, but the peppers are so tiny that you probably can't even see them. Let's see if we can spot one right here. There he is, right there. But I've got peppers in here, and I have some marigold seedlings here too, so that they can look beautiful and attract beneficial insects. But I left the wires on just in case my peppers need to have some shade, so I can easily put the shade cloth on if I want to later on. Peppers really appreciate a little bit of that. And the next bed over, I have peppers in as well, but it's probably hard to see because I've got a bunch of cilantro that is bolting. So as soon as that's done flowering, I'm going to cut that center one out of there. But for now, I just planted peppers around it because I want to feed my pollinators and keep them happy. And you should see how many ladybugs are on there. This bed has got one collard green right here that is finishing up, actually two. I'll show you that one in a second, but they're sweet potato slips that I put in here. So that collard is still very, very happy, and he's going right along. I've been harvesting from it a little bit at a time, and this one not so happy, and I'm going to show you why and why I'm going to keep it this way. Can you see all of those aphids on there? This is completely coated with aphids. But I'm tolerating this and just watching and making sure it doesn't get on any of my other plants. And that's because my beneficial insects love these aphids. It's just a feast. And I've also noticed that some of the birds are coming over and picking these aphids off. And I want to have the birds here because they are really good at pest control because they eat a lot of bugs themselves. So this is an example of how you need to tolerate some pest presence for the benefit of the health of your garden overall. My calendula in this bed, that's been here since last spring, but I've got quite a few little potato slips that are just really going crazy and starting to get very happy. They were in a little bit of transplant shock at first, but they seem to have recovered. These leeks are pretty much harvestable right now. I actually took a couple of the biggest ones out over the weekend and cooked with them, and they were so delicious. I'm planning on making a potato leek soup. I don't really video cooking a lot, but if that is something you'd be interested in, please let me know, just so that I can show you what I'm cooking with what I'm harvesting from the garden. So that would be really helpful feedback if you wouldn't mind doing that. But in this bed, I think that I'll probably be putting in some more peppers or eggplants, because of course I always plant too many. And then in this bed, I have finishing up my beautiful chickpeas. And I think these plants are just so delicate and beautiful, but they are full of these little chickpea pods, if you can see those. And of course, these won't be enough probably to make a meal, but my point in planting these was to refresh my seed stock. So hopefully I will get enough seed this year that I can plant out next fall an entire row so that I can eat them. These are the Dolores Hidalgo chickpeas. And then tucked in between them, as they are finishing up, I have tomatoes, because I never want to have an empty bed, as I've mentioned before. And then look at this huge little patch of clover. This is probably about approaching 2 feet tall now. It has gotten really big. I think this should be about as tall as it gets. And this week I'm going to be taking my hedge trimmers and I'm going to be giving it a little haircut. Oh, these cute little clovers. All of them are starting to bloom right now. They smell very sweet too. My plan for that clover patch is to try to see if I can cut it and then let it regrow, and then cut it and let it regrow. And while it's in its short stage, I'm going to plant some extra tomatoes in there that will be much taller. That way they can grow above and beyond the 24 inches that I think will be the maximum height for the clover. And then I will have a renewable source of mulch that I can use. So once I cut that clover down, I can just spread that around in my other beds as a mulch, like straw or alfalfa, or the wood chips that I've been using in some of my other beds. So this is just a little experiment. I'm not sure once I cut that clover if it will be too stressed during the heat to really regrow, or if it'll do okay. I'm not really sure. It's under irrigation, so I have high hopes for it. I grew up in the Midwest and it grew really well in the summertime, but their summertime is not like Arizona summertime. So we'll see about that. I had this little mystery plant. I say little, but this thing is enormous. Just show up here and start growing. I think it's a penstemon. It looks like it's just starting to develop some of these little blooms. So hopefully I'll be able to identify it better as far as the type that it is. But I say it's a mystery because I did not plant this here. But look at that. That is probably 3 feet across. It's amazing. This poor little Oro Blanco fig got frozen all the way back, and it was a pretty substantial tree. So I'm going to have to protect that with some burlap this winter. But all around it, I have planted some little 4 o'clocks here. Look at them. I've got little sprouts all the way around, so hopefully that'll be very pretty. But some of my other ones either were killed by gophers or frozen, so I'm gonna have some work cut out for me. TJ and I have talked about just eliminating the second row of figs and just having 1 row along this back area. I've got my Quito Baquito one here, which always does well. And then just putting in another long bed here instead, because we've had so many problems with gophers. And really what we want is we want a row of fruit trees around the perimeter to provide privacy and to block some of the noise from the highway, because we are pretty close to the highway, so we get a lot of road noise. So we'll see what happens with that. This row of Salt River Pima peas is doing so well. It has so many peas and flowers on it. It's amazing. These are a dried pea, is what they're supposed to be used for. Although you can pick them green, I have, and they're pretty sweet. This little cabbage right here, this is one of those Tiara F1 cabbages. I harvested a couple of these just this week and they were really delicious, but it seems to be forming a head. It does not have any aphids. It's not bolting at all behind this screen of peas right here. So I really like this one. It will get to be about a softball size. So if you have a smaller space, that might be a great option to try for next year. But I've also got my kale is doing really well too. So I've got kale and cabbages all the way along. Also got squash and melons planted all the way down with the intention of letting them go out like that. I'm so excited about this chamomile. If you've never had freshly grown chamomile, you are in for a treat. That is just so sweet and so fresh and flavorful. Dried chamomile just does not even compare to that. The beets on the other side are doing so good. I think maybe I might have a salad beet here on my hands for today. It's very exciting. But look at these onions that I missed last year. They are looking so pretty. Look at that. I love onion blooms. They are just so pretty, and the pollinators love them too, so I've just been letting them go all the way down. Oh, look at that. My first little mutant volunteer sunflower of the season. That's so pretty. I love that orange color. It's a little bit small because it's been struggling to get out from under this pea patch right here that came out volunteer as well, which is providing me with a lot of peas and a lot of beauty. Such a pretty variety. The rest of the onions are doing okay, but I had released a video about them bolting, and I'll explain more about that, but it's from fluctuating temperatures. So I'm getting a lot of them bolting, and they will not be good for storage. And so the ones that are bolting, we're just using fresh. In between my onions, I have my tomatoes. I'm trying out these supports this year from Gardener Supply, so we'll see. I used to use them for beans, but I ran out of tomato baskets, so we'll see about that. My hope is that when I'm finished pulling all of these onions, my tomatoes will be in full production. This mixed bed with tomatoes and carrots and onions and Swiss chard and potatoes is looking so lovely. I've got some tomato baskets up here too. I need to buy stock in a tomato basket company. And this Swiss chard is so lovely. If you're looking for a green that's heat and cold tolerant, it is like the magic plant for sure. My green beans that I planted along the edges are doing really well, so I'm hoping that I will get some green beans very soon. I alternated yellow and purple and green ones just because I really like having the variety. So I should have plenty of green beans very soon. And these beets are starting to bulb up as well. I need to harvest all of these carrots. I've got a recipe for a carrot soup, so I can share that too if y'all are interested, but I need to make way for the okra that I planted there and the little pepper plants, so they're gonna get bitter soon anyway, so I'll probably harvest them this weekend. These bachelor's buttons are starting to get little blooms on them. I don't know if you can see that, but little flower buds. So I'm excited. Those should be purple. And then I put right on the end of this bed this really tall structure. This is supposed to be for beans, and so it's like a little bean tower. And so I planted some scarlet runner beans there, and that way hopefully I can have a beautiful bean vine right there that is covered in scarlet blooms to make the end of the bed really beautiful. I love this combination along the fava bean bed of this orange calendula along with all of these beautiful little alyssum that I planted all the way along. So look at that, so pretty. Fava beans are coming along, and amongst the fava beans I have planted a little zucchini. I have I think 6 of them in here. So I tried to choose the open spaces where sunlight would get to help those grow, so that way they are big enough by the time the fava beans come out. So they're doing good. I know I talk about this garlic bed all the time, and y'all are probably getting tired of hearing about it, but it is looking so good. The cilantro on the ends are really, really pretty right now. And the Orlea that I shared before was just starting to open its first flower, and now they are everywhere. So pretty. The EE Toy onions I think are just about ready to harvest, and the shallots as well. But really, this garlic, if I could show you how tall this is. This is, in some instances, about hip high. The dahlia seedlings that I planted have probably doubled in size. So pretty. I planted some tobacco here, some Santo Domingo tobacco, but I haven't seen any of it come up yet. So still on the lookout for that. Look at that mix of color. I just love that. All these volunteer sunflowers. And then here is one of the first scabiosa or pincushion flower that is getting ready to bloom. That center should be opened up, I think, by the weekend. I bought this lavender. I have 2 of them. These are Spanish lavender. I bought them on the clearance rack at Home Depot, and they looked very sad and sorry last spring. And they made it through the winter, and they have made a full comeback, and they attract so many bees. I have one on either end of this grapevine trellis. And so the other one's on the other side, and I just love it. So pretty. The other side of this garlic bed, flanked by the calendula, has a new thing in it. So at least I'm showing you something new, and that is this bean trellis. So I have some Blue Lake pole beans here. Hopefully this will be tall enough for them. And I already have the seeds planted in there. So they get dappled sunlight. So hopefully over the next few weeks they can sprout and grow, and then the garlic will be gone and they'll get full sun. I want to show you something that I have done over here. I have made a little fruit corner, as I've talked about before, but I have currants over here and Nanking cherries, and I have my peach tree, and I've also got my espalier apple trees over here. But I left some weeds because I noticed that there were so many native bees on them. I left some of the fleabane over here, which some might consider a weed, but I think it's really beautiful and it's native, and the bees, the native bees in particular, love the little blooms. So I've sort of made just a little pollinator little strip over here by mowing around them and sparing them, so that way it will draw in more pollinators. So all around I mowed, but then I left this little strip. These are my currants right here, my black currants. But you see the shade of the wall right here? I have a story about that. These currants will get morning sun, but by the time the afternoon sun is overhead, they will be in complete shade with the wall, and they are loving it. They're looking so healthy. So originally I had one of the currants planted on the opposite side where it is now, on the other side of the peach tree, because I thought I could have one on one side of the peach tree and one on the other. And I found that one of the currants was doing really well, the one next to the wall, but the other one kept getting fried, and I couldn't figure out why. I started coming out at different times of the day to observe it, and I noticed that the one planted next to the wall was in full shade in the afternoon when the sun was at its peak and the hottest during the day, and the other one was in full sun being fried. So I decided to move the other currant over next to the wall as well, so it could get the morning sun and then have some shelter from the afternoon sun, and it has made a full recovery, and it's starting to look really good too. So I think there is something to be said for the importance of observation in your garden, and just little nuances like shade from a wall or dappled shade from a tree, or where the sun hits in the afternoon. And so it's really important to be an observer in your garden and to walk around, not only for pest prevention, but just to catch other little things like that. My Nanking cherry came back over the winter. I still have to trim off some of these little wooden stalks. This will become a really big plant. It should leaf out really well. And then I liked it so much that I got a couple more little seedlings. Now I have a little confession to make. I showed you my Nanking cherry that I planted last year, and then I got 2 others because I liked it so much. And I was pruning around one of them over the weekend, and I accidentally cut it off. So it still has a little nubbin left and a little leaf, so I think that it'll be okay, but I'm sure it's gonna take it a couple of seasons to recover from my sloppy pruning job. That's the original over there that's coming back. And this is one of the new ones that I got, that I planted just in the spring. And then this is the one that I tried to murder. Let me see if I can get closer. Look, it's got one little leaf, and it's about this big, And so we'll see. So far it doesn't seem like it's dying, but it's definitely had a wee bit of a setback. My fruit corner is looking good. Everything is all protected all the way down. So, and then my pomegranate hedge starts over there. Can you all see those peaches through this netting? Look at those luscious things. No, I did not thin them as I should have. This is really the first year they've had much of a crop, and I decided just let it be against my better judgment and just let them sort it out and see what happens. That way I know better for next year what I should do. Usually you want to thin these out for sure to like 1 out of all these clusters, but I'm not following the directions this year. My pomegranates are doing so well, so let's go check those out now. This is a great example. So they start out like a little bud like this, and then they become this beautiful coral orange kind of little flower. And then let me look a little further down. I saw a fruit that had already formed. Here we go. Can you see the fruit? So that's what it becomes. And I'm sure you can see this thing is decorated like a little Christmas tree. It's just got them all over it. But some of my others have quite a few blooms on them too. My hope is to make a little pomegranate hedge here so that I will just have a whole row of fruit, and it will be so delicious. And I just think they're beautiful plants too. Just look at that. This one is one of the wonderfuls. You can see it's much more red than the other one is. I kind of feel like some of my videos have been a bit redundant because I've been doing a lot of what I'm planting this week videos as well as my monthly tour, and I've been sprinkling in some how-tos as well just to share information, but I hope you all find them helpful, and I thank you so much for hanging out with me today in the garden and just enjoying my plants with me. It is so fun to show them off and to enjoy them with other people. I'm Kara from So Arizona. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy gardening.